everyone, it's Anthony back with another video here on Single and Placing. Hi. I hope you're having a fantastic day, weekday, weekend, evening, morning, overnight, all that good stuff. Welcome back for, as you can tell by the title, and maybe if you're here watching it in the live chat, another premiere. Wah, 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 wah. I'm so excited for this. I mean, I'm excited for all of them, but this is the third one that I've done and the third one to go up. And so this kind of completes my first round of reaching out to a couple artists in a small shop just to see if this is something that I might actually be able to do or people would enjoy. And the feedback has been really positive. So I'm so excited that this kind of wraps up my first trio of interviews. And this is actually with Hannah over at Iterations Crafts. So Hannah is a digital artist that has been, and we'll learn about it, but has been in the diamond painting community for a while. And she was one of the first artists that does individual licensing and stuff of her images that I ever engaged with. And so I feel like Hannah and I really kicked it off as soon as I kind of discovered her artwork, and we've just been in touch ever since, and just kind of chatting and communicating. And I will say, if Hannah, you're here in the chat, thank you so much for being here. And if you're catching this on the replay, I think you were planning on being here. So thank you so much for participating in this. And truth be told, Hannah's kind of the reason, or one of the main reasons, why I decided to even do this series. This idea is something that I wanted to do previously, but I wasn't really actively thinking about, okay, what is that going to look like? It was just an idea, but once Hannah and I started talking about AI artwork and stuff like that, that's what really sparked the idea in earnest of me to say, no, I think the timing is right to sit down and not just talk to artists that use one tool or another, but really start investing more in highlighting shops and lifting people up and supporting those around me, be it artists, other creators, or shops, in a more direct and meaningful way. And this is kind of, like I said, my conversations with Hannah led me to her being the first one that I asked, first artist that I asked, but just with timing and stuff, now it's the third one. But maybe this is, just a good kickoff for maybe future conversations, not only with the other artists and shops, but continued work with Hannah on my channel. She's just been a blast to interact with, and she's always such a joy to talk to, as you'll see in this interview. Someone like myself that I feel really tries to focus on putting perspective to whatever topic that they're discussing. So it just is a breath of fresh air to chat with her from time to time when I really need it. And I hope she feels the same way about me. So I'll stop blathering on. Let's go ahead and get to the interview. Thank you so much for those of you that are here in the live chat. Don't forget to ask any questions, that type of thing, in the chat. If we can do our best, if Hannah's here, we can do our best to answer them. But keep in mind that things move pretty quickly. So if you don't get a direct answer or a super detailed answer, I do my best to write down questions and present them to the person being interviewed in case they would like to provide more clarification, that type of thing. So yeah, don't get worried about the chat. It's okay. You can also leave a comment as well. Otherwise, I'll let you go, but stick around till the end. I'll do a little outro, as I have been doing. So let's go ahead and move into my interview or spotlight with Hannah over at Iterations Crafts. Bye. Okay, I think we're good. Yay!
All right.
Okay, well, I guess first things first, thank you so much for doing this. It's been some time in the making getting this prepped, and I've been working on putting the questions together and all of that stuff, so I appreciate you taking the time. But yeah, Hannah, if you want to introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do in the diamond painting community, and we can kind of start there.
Yeah, so thank you for inviting me, because this is super fun for me too. And yeah, so this is cool. My name is Hannah, and you might know me in a couple of ways, because I've been a diamond painter for several years. Like I got into it a couple of years before the pandemic started. So
Hmm.
back when like Diamond Art Club was a new thing and we were all mostly, getting things from AliExpress and
Yeah.
those days and everything. And so I think some people know me on um, Instagram as at the other Hannah M,
Okay.
because that's like my personal account, and that's where I was posting diamond painting things for a long
Oh,
time.
okay. Yeah.
Yeah. And then and people also might know me as Hannah Mosier because that's who I was on YouTube. Not that I have a YouTube channel, but if I was like commenting on things and stuff like that. But
Right.
I got married in November, so that's why I'm
Yeah.
now Hannah Lipskey.
Congrats. Yeah.
And then the other place to find me now is that now that I'm actually making art, I have a second Instagram account that's devoted just to my art and the diamond paintings that are coming out of that art. And that's at Iterations Crafts. So now you'll pretty much see me as Hannah Lipsky, and as, Hannah at Iterations Crafts.
Okay. Awesome. Yeah, I didn't realize that you had been diamond painting for so long. That's awesome.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean it's definitely the painting came way long before actually working on trying to make art for diamond paintings. So yeah.
Yeah. Cool. Awesome. Yeah, I know, when I first was introduced to you, it was through seeing some comments on like videos and stuff from different content creators, and then really took off when I put the two and two together that you were creating artwork, and I was like immediately drawn towards it. So yeah, I guess, talk to me a little bit about what made you interested in kind of transitioning into the art creation side of things, and how long you've been working on that.
So I'm pretty new. Like that's also kind of like what's fun and exciting about it for me. Like so my background is in academia actually. So I was
Mhm.
getting my PhD in philosophy for years and years and years, and I was um, teaching college classes and things like that. And so I had sort of an academic interest. I taught classes in philosophy of art and took classes in
Mhm.
philosophy of art, and also, learned some like art theory and art history and stuff. But that all kind of came crashing down when like chronic illness hit me really hard and made
Mhm.
that career path impossible. And so for a long time, I didn't necessarily have anything that I would consider to exactly be career related. I was just focused on my health. And but I've had this like feeling all along of just ever since I was a kid of wanting to create art and being way
Mhm.
too scared to do it. Like I just like
Right.
I was the kid who was like, since I was a straight A student and I was good at school, that meant that I could follow the step-by-step projects in art class, and was
Yeah.
terrified of like moving
Yeah.
away from that at all.
Right.
Like
Right. Yeah.
and I think, and I did try some things, I tried to learn painting in a few different ways. I took some like community center watercolor classes and things like that.
Okay.
But
Yeah.
I think the thing that always got in the way for me was that sense of fear. Like I didn't think that I was good at it, and I was like really scared of doing something that I wasn't good at. Um,
Mhm.
and I think like when it comes to diamond painting, I think that's a place where I think what brings a lot of us to diamond painting actually is like a
Yes.
love for the art, a love for the colors, a love for
Mhm.
like the process, but not having those skills ourselves, not having
Right.
any idea or time to acquire them, and just wanting to be a part of the artwork. Like that's like I think what
Yeah.
has made me love diamond painting is like you get to be a part of the artwork and feel like you're in the process of creating it.
Absolutely. Yeah, I
Yeah.
totally agree. I think that's such a huge reason why I'm interested in it as well. So that's cool. I mean, a lot of people have, there's a myriad of reasons why people start in this craft. A lot of times it's, to help relax, de-stress, and it can be all those things
Mhm.
too. But I think there are a lot of people that it allows us to explore artwork and explore different genres and themes, even though we might not be the most creative ourselves, or at least have the confidence to dive into it. Yeah.
And I'm one of those people, like, the thing that felt so comforting to me about diamond painting was that there's a chart in front of me. I
Hmm.
don't have to worry about whether I'm good at it or not. I just put the things where it tells me to put the things, you know? And it took me a
Yeah.
while to even break free enough to like try altering things or putting in my own enhancements or things like that. Um,
Yeah.
which just gives a sign of like where I was, say, even a year ago in terms of like
Hmm.
my how locked up like my creative impulses were, and just
Right.
like
Yeah.
yeah, just like such fear of experimentation. And
Right.
for me, the thing that broke that uh that like sort of broke that open for me was actually AI. So I I just like seen people like it was back this summer. My wife had just gone through like a major surgery and we were exhausted and recovering from that. And, I just kind of saw these like news articles or just people posting like random things that they were making when Dolly first became available to people and anyone could just kind of try to make something.
Uh-huh.
And so I just started trying it out and then realized that I loved it and then moved into Midjourney, which is the program I
Uh-huh.
use now. And the thing about it that opened everything up for me was that it took away all of that pressure of worrying all the time about whether or not I was good enough. Um,
Right.
I at the time I didn't have the drawing skills. I was just had the idea in my head that I was a person who couldn't draw. And then the other
Hmm.
thing is like with the AI, like it spits out the weirdest things all the time. So like
Right.
there's no pressure to create a perfect image every time or something like that. I mean, that's a lot of the fun of it to me. And
Right.
I think yeah, so what it gave to me was this spirit of um, play and
Hmm.
curiosity and experimentation and all of those things that I think that like you need in order to actually be able to get into art that I'd kind of had blocked away. And
Right.
yeah, so it was
Yeah.
through doing, yeah, okay, go ahead. Yeah, sorry.
No, no, go ahead. Yeah, you're fine. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say it was through doing that that then it just opened up everything for me. Then I wanted to learn how to draw. I wanted to learn how to do digital painting. I wanted to learn all of the other kinds of like digital tools and things like that. Um, and just learn everything I can. Like I wasn't afraid to try to draw. I wasn't afraid to try to paint. I wasn't afraid to just try, because that spirit
Yeah.
of like experimentation and curiosity and just like play and fun was like
Yeah.
there for me now. Yeah, so
Yeah.
that's kind of
That's a that's
how I got
exactly, I
here.
think. Yeah, that's so awesome. And I think that's a really interesting kind of transition, or how that medium or that tool kind of unlocked that for you. Because I think it is really daunting if, even if you've gone through, the more traditional route of like attending schooling and stuff like that, there still is going, at least for me, and it's a roadblock for me and my creativity of, you sit there with a blank canvas or a blank tablet or what have you, and it's like you have this image in your head, but it's like, where do I start here, and I think that pressure of the first thing needs to be a really good thing, it can feel
Yeah.
really daunting and a little overwhelming. So then you end up just saying, okay, I'm going to set this aside for now, or I'll try again next month or what have you. So that's awesome that you were able to find and utilize a tool that kind of helped you to leapfrog past some of those, roadblocks, mental or otherwise, to be able to embrace something that you do have that within you. It's just a matter of finding a way to foster that feeling of confidence. So that's so cool. um,
Yeah.
what yeah what would you say, and I know the answer to this, but it's just a question that I feel like you ask all artists is like, talk to me a little
Yeah.
bit about if you have a particular style or stylings that you gravitate towards or lean from or draw inspiration from.
So I'm super eclectic, and that's one of those things. I mean, I think it's both because it's for a few reasons. One, because I'm new, like I've been in this for like 8 months. I'm
Mhm.
new and exploring and just constantly finding new directions. And so that is part of it. The other thing is that very early on, as I was working with the AI art and then developing other skills, like one of the immediate things I wanted to do was to provide them for diamond painters. And so when I set up my art Instagram, like the main goal behind it was to provide images that are affordable that people can use as customs with budget companies or expensive companies or whatever they want to do, and they know where the image came from. They don't have to worry about that side of it. and
Right.
um and, and also I can give them a huge variety. And so
Mhm.
so that also means that, like, I never really even wanted to get too locked in to any particular style, because I want to be able to provide a variety to people, and also because I'm constantly getting feedback from people asking me to make certain kinds of things, that they haven't
Right.
seen, that they haven't been able to find a diamond painting of. Um, but I would say, if I had to describe my style in some way, I think that usually for me in my art, like I always try to find something that will carry some kind of emotion to it or tell some kind of story. And it's
Mhm.
usually some sort of mix of something that is both dark or playing with potentially darker emotions, but yet it's
Right.
still beautiful and hopeful in some kind of way.
Yes.
That's, I think, a theme that runs through my art in general.
Yeah. Yeah, I would totally agree. I think, when I first, came across your Instagram and kind of saw it popping up in my feed, that's one of the things that really drew me to it is that resonates a lot with the styles that I like. I like something that has a little
Mhm.
bit more of a depth or emotion, or it draws you in, like, what's going on here, and it encourages your brain to start telling a story in your own head of, like,
Mm.
and we'll talk about it when we talk about
Yeah,
the
yeah.
kit behind me, but yeah, that's what really drew me in. But I liked that there was this kind of a little bit of like an ominous tone to some of the images. There's something deeper there, and that's what really drew me to a lot of your images. Even if the overall look of it might be, positive and, fun and like more on the
Mhm.
cute side, there was just a little bit of something that's like, let's peel back the curtains a little bit on what's happening here. And so that's what really kind of
Yeah.
drew me to you as an artist. So that's awesome.
Well, I
um
love that you could see that, because that's what I
yeah.
feel like I'm bringing. So it's good that that comes
Yeah.
across. Yeah.
Oh, it totally does. Like the first few images, I just like kept, there's like a couple, and once again, we'll talk about it, but they just kept calling me back. And I'd go back to your account and like scroll through until I found them again. I'm like, I have to figure out how to get these. And so, but yeah, talk to me, I guess, would you say that going from piece to piece, does your style fluctuate depending on, is it your mood, or is it based on like requests or what else you're seeing out in the diamond painting world? What makes you decide, like, okay, these are the prompts, or this is where I'm going to start this time versus the last time or the next time?
It's a lot of different things. So sometimes it's coming from me and the thing that I really feel like I need to express at the moment. Sometimes it's coming
Mhm.
from, a lot of times it's coming from books I'm reading, that,
Okay.
is just constantly. an inspiration for me, but a lot of it is also, I've become, really close to other people in the AI art community, and we have like, there's a lot of collaborative feel to like AI art and like
Hmm.
Midjourney itself. I mean, we can talk about this more later when we talk about how it works, but it's designed to make collaboration with other people super easy. And
Hmm.
so there's a real community spirit of that. And so like one of the groups that I'm a part of has a daily theme every day with that is just it's usually based on an emoji, but sometimes other things. And it's just like that's the theme for the day. It's your challenge to try to
Uh,
create something around that theme. They also have
okay.
like weekly themes or things like that. So there's constantly like those kinds of like challenges to give you ideas. And then also very much requests. It really didn't take that long from when I started my Iterations Crafts account for me to actually start getting requests from people about the kinds of things they wanted to see, because I think for a lot of people there's certain subject matters and things that they've just never found in diamond art kits and that they're looking
Right.
for. And so I'm also constantly getting um yeah, like that's another big area for me, is getting drawn into other people's requests of the kinds of things they want to see and then putting my own spin on it. Um,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and I like that. Artists like yourself have that ability to be rather agile and flexible and be able to
Mhm.
kind of explore different areas and really resonate with consumers in the crafting world or in the art world in general, because there definitely are subject matters that are just, I personally feel, underrepresented in a lot of the major shops. And so hopefully, I'd love to start seeing a lot more of that style of artwork get brought into this creative space, because it's a lot more accessible now in terms of the artists that are doing it. So yeah. So I guess, just like you said,
Oh, it,
oh, go ahead.
just one thing to add to that. I just
Yeah.
want to make sure everyone knows, like, um, even though I have started licensing with diamond painting companies, like the main idea of Iterations Crafts from when I started it is still very real, in that you can always, no matter the image, anything that you see on my Instagram, you can message me on Instagram and buy that image from me to make a custom. So like you're not like all of those images are available to you, you know.
Right.
So it just that's really important to me, both to try to keep the craft affordable for the people who need more options for being able to use more like budget companies or things like that, but also just because of what we were saying, that there are a lot of different kinds of images that people maybe aren't finding somewhere else. And so I
Right.
just always want to make sure people know anything you see on my Instagram is available. So you can ask me for
That's
it.
awesome.
Most of the stuff on my Instagram has never been turned into a diamond painting, but sometimes it's
Yeah.
the one thing that that person just really wanted. Um,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. I like that option too, and we'll talk a little bit more about where people can find your diamond paintings if they want to
Mhm.
look for different sellers. But I like that flexibility there too, because I'm a little bit of like I like a higher quality, canvas and kit
Mhm.
and setup. And so I like it because it allows me to utilize that image that's really speaking to me, but to bring it to a shop or something like that that aligns with what I'm looking for in terms of quality too. So it gives that flexibility as well, which is
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah.
But you were talking a little bit about kind of process, and I know that's kind of
Yeah.
one of the
Yeah.
big pieces that I wanted to chat with you about. Is I
Mhm.
know that what it means to create art is just infinite. Every person,
Mhm.
every medium, every style is going to be slightly different. So I've been really starting to get fascinated by how does someone take this idea and turn it into a piece that they really like or they enjoy or present to others. And so the process is such a big part of that. So I know each artist is willing to share, there's a lot of stuff that, I don't expect artists to be like, here it is, all on the table, all the stuff that I do. But as much as you're willing to share, talk to me a little bit about your process, tools and mediums, time it takes to put stuff together. What does that look like for
Mhm.
you?
So I feel like maybe the place to start is just to say a little bit about AI in general, because I know that's like new to a lot of people. There's a lot of
Mhm.
confusion about AI art, and which is not surprising at all because like for one thing, there are a bunch of different kinds of programs and apps and AI tools, and they work differently. They do different things, so it's not as if like you can say, oh, this is how AI art works. And then also
Right,
users use them in so many different ways. So
right.
it's it's like gets really complex in that way. And then the other thing is that it is changing so fast. So like even just a couple of years ago, maybe even not as far back as that, I feel like you had to have like professional coding skills to be able to do AI
Mm,
image
mhm.
generation. And just in that time now, it has become majorly accessible to just about anyone.
Right.
And the technology is developing really rapidly and changing. So it's actually sometimes hard to keep up with, even as like someone like me who's like a daily user.
Right.
But that's just like to preface, like AI art is a lot of things. But what I could talk about is like
Right.
my own experience with the program that I use, which is called Midjourney.
Mhm.
And Midjourney, it lets you, so basically it takes two different kinds of inputs. Basically, the main one is text. So it has like a little dialogue that pops up and it says like imagine, like that's the prompt. And then you tell it what you want it to imagine. So
Right.
however you want to describe it in words, um, is available to you. You can, some people are like, maybe you're just like super descriptive of the exact visual scene that you want to see. Some people are really specific in terms of like even what kinds of lighting they want, what kinds of camera lens
Oh,
they want, like you
uh-huh.
can get that specific with it. But it also responds really well to more conceptual things, to emotions, to I kind of play around with all of that, but I like to bring in, it's like one of the things that I try often is using book titles or obviously since my background is more in philosophy, I tend to move more towards like conceptual things, and I'm always really curious what the AI would do with that. And I
Right.
use emotion words a lot, as well as,
Yes.
so I would say my visual descriptions tend to be a little bit looser, and the emotions and concepts. And then in terms of like art styles, I try to like take what I can learn as much as I can about like the history of art and different art movements and things like that, and bring
Right.
in so I might be playing with like vintage sci-fi. I might be playing with pop surrealism, like trying to bring in
Mhm.
some of those kinds of terms. Um, so text is like the main way in to Midjourney. The other way in though is that it takes image prompts. So that means that you can take an image and give it the image and then combine it with text. So
Okay.
sometimes like professional photographers will use it in order to like take their photography and play with different kinds of lighting styles or whatever they want. But also
Yeah.
like you can do it if you can just do it with like a picture from your vacation of like the most beautiful place you ever thought you visited, or your
Mhm.
cat, or it is also like super fun to like take pictures of your friends and turn them into like pirates or zombies. I enjoy doing that and sending them to
That's
them.
awesome.
I mean,
Yeah.
it's like it gives you there's also a lot of different ways online to find like databases of art or photography that's been put into the public domain and made available for artists to use in whatever way they want. So you can bring in those images.
Mhm.
But then the other thing that you can do, which is something that I've only more recently started exploring, is you can create um, your artwork first. So like I use Procreate a lot. That's the digital painting tool that I really like. And
Right.
so I can create some kind of a digital painting in Procreate using the kinds of like textures and styles and things like that that I want to use, and then take that painting and put it into Midjourney as an image prompt and then tell it how I want it to play around with it.
Interesting. Okay, that's really cool.
Yeah.
I guess I didn't realize that you could utilize, photography or images and kind of start with that base. I
Mhm.
thought it was purely text based. So that's cool that you can kind of work those two together.
Yeah,
That's
most of
awesome.
the um not all of like the smaller apps will let you do that, but most of like the major AI image generators will let you do that in some way. So you're
Okay.
kind of playing with the relationship between image and text and image and language all the time, kind of back and forth. Um, which is really interesting. So for me, like a process might look like I might start with text and just go in with text and see where I can get with that. And then
Mhm.
Midjourney it'll just keep spitting out things for me. I can make variations of it. I can ask it to change the prompt for an image I already made and say like, actually, I want you to change this image in this way,
Okay,
and
cool.
tell it how I want it to modify it, be like, sure, but make it pink, I don't know, just
Yeah.
whatever, however you want to do that. Then there's like a series of like specific settings and commands that are particular to this program that will tell it specific kinds of settings that you want it to use. So you have to like know a fair amount about like the technical side of how the program is developed and what things you can do with it if you want to
Right.
use those settings. You don't have to. Um, or I might start with an image and add some text and then work from there. And then at the
Hmm.
end, usually, when I started, I was usually posting things that came directly out of Midjourney because I didn't have any digital editing skills. I didn't have any drawing or painting skills yet. But as
Yeah.
I've been learning those, now most often I will then take something that I've created in Midjourney and take the image, put it through Procreate, paint over it in certain ways myself, um, find ways that I might want to edit it, and things like that. So I think what I'm moving more towards for myself is doing a digital painting first, then Midjourney, like AI, then digital painting afterwards kind of model.
Yeah,
That's
just
kind of
to
where I see myself going. But
Yeah,
yeah.
that's awesome. Yeah, I know that a lot of digital artists utilize, AI in one form or fashion in a similar way, where it kind of you get that kind of like base level kind of conceptual
Mhm,
piece or a lot of the bones of an art of a piece,
mhm.
and then run it through their software and then come back through and do that cleanup, texture adjustment, touch ups, those types of things. So I think that that's awesome. It's so cool that you've been able once again to utilize that tool, and just over the course of the past year, been able to unlock all of that for yourself and get to a place that is what I would consider pretty advanced. That's so awesome. So you had it in you all along.
Yeah. I know. That's the thing. I mean, I guess one thing I feel like, I mean, I know one of your questions is like, what would be one of the takeaways for people from this video? And I
Hmm.
feel like one of the main takeaways that I want to say is like, I see a lot of like the internet talk about AI art, and one of the things that it seems like is the biggest complaints about it is that it's too accessible. Like that
Hmm.
people are afraid that maybe it's too easy. You don't have to have the drawing skills or whatever. And I think for me, like, and for lots of people, I actually think it's absolutely wonderful that it's so accessible because of this, because like, sure, you know, it takes a lot of time and skill and learning to do the more advanced things to like really bring things into your own style or take it in the kinds of directions that those of us who spend way too much time on it do. But also, like anyone can open up Midjourney and just give it a try. Put in some things,
Right.
like put in some words, see what you get, see what it unlocks, find things for yourself, um, and like more and more it's like interesting in the art community that I'm a part of. Like it's a huge mix of people who had no art background going in, who
Hmm.
have, come into AI art as a way to find that kind of creative expression. A lot of people do it for, mental health, for just expression, for just unlocking that creativity. And then there's also a
Right.
ton of people who have a really high level of art background. We're an art professor for 20 years, or, plenty of people who went to art school who are coming to it because they're fascinated by it as a new kind of creative tool, or they want to use it in different ways. Or in many cases, I mean, I have several friends who it's because they encountered some kind of chronic illness or disability or mobility issues that meant that they could no longer hold a pen or an Apple Pencil or do the kinds of art that they used to make. And this has
Right.
turned out to be accessible to them, like in a physical way. But yeah, I mean, I think it's wonderful that anyone can open it up and give it a try. And that's something that I would really encourage people watching this video. If you're like me and you're a diamond painter who loves being a part of the art but has never felt like you had a way into making anything yourself, this is a way you can do that, you know,
Yeah.
and give it a try. You don't have to be afraid of it. And in that sense, you can just type in. I know you said in Rose's video that you tried. You're like, let's see what a cyberpunk grandma looks like.
Yeah, yeah,
Totally.
I'll show you.
Like,
I'll show you real quick. Yeah,
yeah, I
I
want to
I
see that.
totally agree with you. I think it makes that creative process a lot more accessible for anyone, but I think it resonates for me because there's a lot of people that might not otherwise be able to express their creativity, and so it just really excites me, and I'm really excited to see kind of where this goes. Oh my gosh, I should have pulled this up in advance. Oh, here we go. Okay, cool. So I did this one.
I
Isn't that
love it.
so cute? Yeah, I love her. And then
That's
this was
amazing.
my other one. Isn't that
That's
cool?
so great. I had great fun for a while where I had a series where for a while, just for playing around, every prompt that I did was your mom, comma, some kind of art style.
Yeah.
So it was just your mom, dark fantasy, your mom,
Right.
cyberpunk, your mom, and it was just, I don't know,
Yeah.
and it came up with some really fascinating things. But I mean, I had a period where I was just trying out making everything with emojis. That was the
Hmm.
only input I was allowing myself, no words, and just only through emojis and seeing what
Right.
I could do with that.
That's
And
really
it's just,
cool.
you just get to play and experiment. And I think for the people who feel like that's not art, I mean, I guess in some ways I'm not super invested in what is or is not art because people have been, like I said, I did philosophy of art classes. We've been arguing about that forever, whatever. But
Yeah.
I do think that something that is essential to art is is experimentation, play. Um,
Yes.
like and not a total, I think a lack of control, a lack of total control is actually, really inspirational for a lot of artists.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Cool. Well, you did mention, that was kind of one of your main takeaways is just that accessibility and being able to explore and create and play. Is there anything, are there any particular pieces that you've done or that you've worked on that are really impactful for you, or you hope people are really drawn to them? Is there any one that really stands out for you so far?
Well, one of the ones that I think I wanted to talk about, I mean, you can actually sort of see it behind me
Yeah.
hanging on my wall there. I wanted
Yeah.
to talk about this one, and you can put it up,
Yeah,
in post
absolutely.
editing, so if everyone can see it.
Yeah.
This was one of my much earlier pieces, and the reason why it's really special to me is because it's the first one that I actually turned into a diamond painting and completed. And I mean, that really says something about, because when you pick the one that you really want to make as a diamond painting, that says something about what's really drawing you in. And so the theme for this one, like so I am, I'm an LGBT, well, I'm gay, I'm, and married to a woman, all of that. And that's one of those areas where I feel like there is a huge lack in diamond painting. Not because people aren't celebrating LGBT, but it's all about pride. It's all about pride flags and rainbows, you know, like that's kind of the level
Hmm.
where we're at. It
Yeah.
doesn't get into like the depth of, the actual experience, So
Hmm.
what I was putting in this piece, it's called Autumn Longing, and I think I was trying out a lot of prompts that were about like lesbian longing, wistfulness, those kinds of things. And it was also very like Georgia O'Keeffe inspired.
Right.
So for anyone who's familiar with Georgia O'Keeffe, one of the things she's known for is the fact that she has very organic pieces that are grounded in like landscape and nature, but they tend to look like female bodies. And
Right.
so there's that kind of yeah, and which makes her kind of a cult favorite among like queer women. Um, and I just kind of wanted to bring that out even more. So I have
Right.
a few different kinds of flowers and landscapes that I was doing where I was trying to make them like explicitly lesbian, in a way.
Right.
And so that's a lot of like where this piece came out for me. And it's one of the ones like no one else has ever bought it. It's not one that anyone has ever asked to license, and that's fine for me because this was what I needed to express at the time.
Right.
And that's the thing. I think that's again like what we were saying, one of the things about AI art, because you can work so much faster and create a variety of pieces, it means that there isn't as much of a time and energy cost into every piece necessarily. So I feel really fine creating something that's just for one person, if that's all
Right.
it ever is.
Yeah.
But that's
Yeah.
why
And
that one's
I,
special to me.
yeah, I really like that you mentioned that because, kind of calling back to being able to kind of take requests from others in the community
Mhm.
and seeing what you can do to play with and explore, it really makes the resulting image a lot more impactful and special. And
Mhm.
because you have that flexibility of that time investment and being able to try different versions and stuff on a relatively quick pace, it's I've even reached out to you, and said, okay, I like this,
Mhm.
but
Yeah.
this, or I like this, or maybe adjust this, and then you have the opportunity to go back in and play with it a little bit. So I really like that. Once again, this style of artwork gives you that flexibility to kind of explore emotions and get a little bit more, conceptual with stuff and just see what kind of comes back. So I've personally taken a lot of value about your approach. So yeah,
Yeah, because I guess what I would say is important about that is not everything needs to be commercially valuable. Like it
right,
doesn't have that pressure. If you can work um if you can generate more things and more styles, like what it would take as a traditional artist to learn the variety of subjects and styles that I am able to do through these digital tools. I mean, that would take years and years and years, and like it's
yeah.
kind of. And so there's so much pressure then that every piece that you create is commercially viable, and you can't make something. I mean, you can, but when you're trying to like make money off of it, it's like the cost of making something that only one person will ever like or that maybe no one will ever buy is, like you can't get that particular or that individual
Yeah.
unless someone is willing to pay a lot of money for it. Um,
Yeah.
and so not like the fact that I don't have to make things that I think are going to be commercially popular at traditional diamond painting companies just gives a whole lot of freedom.
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. And it allows us as consumers or people that want to, to see a particular genre or style, it gives us the ability to actually influence that and be able to see that come to
Mhm.
fruition a lot easier. So it's very exciting. So, yeah, I guess tell me a little bit about where you see yourself next in this artistic space. What are you seeing in that crystal ball as far as your journey here?
So I think I said this a little bit before, but now that I've been building my drawing and painting skills, and particularly like in digital painting, that's really what is going to allow me going forward to put even more of myself into into the things that I create because I can generate styles that wouldn't have come from the AI otherwise. So I
Mhm.
don't know if you want to show um, a piece that you picked out from my newest collection that I've been releasing.
Yeah. Yes, yeah. Tell me a little bit
Um,
about. I'll put it up in the corner, but I just
yeah.
just to let the viewers know, I went through kind of some of your most recent pieces that you've been creating and putting on Instagram, and just kind of picked one that really jumped out to me as like, this is exciting, and it's a little bit different than I've seen from you before.
Mhm.
And I'll tell you a little bit about what vibes I'm getting from it and see if that resonates
Yeah.
with you or
Yeah.
maybe where you drew your inspiration from. But I want to kind of tell you what
Yeah.
I see and see if that lines up. But we'll put
Yeah.
it up in
Yeah.
the corner. You have a series of 4 pharaoh images that came out recently, and help me with the pronunciation.
Akhenaten.
Akhenaten. So I really was drawn
Hmm.
to the first image that you put up
Hmm.
of that pharaoh. So I'll put it up there. But yeah, I guess for me, this image. So the color palette is really what drew me into it. It's
Hmm.
got a lot of these really rich, vibrant, and kind of emotional, dramatic tones of gold and really deep blue in there, and
Hmm.
it gave me kind of a Gustav Klimt kind of vibe when I was looking at
Hmm.
it. It gave me kind of that woman in gold kind of style, but there was more of there's a lot more drama, and there's a little bit more of an ominous kind of vibe to the image, and that's
Yeah.
right up my alley. So, and I love there's another artist, Ivan de Jesus, that is carried by
Oh yeah.
Distracted
Yeah.
by
Yeah.
Diamonds, and they utilize a lot of like perfect spheres in the background and kind of more like
Hmm.
clockwork
Yeah.
kind of gears and cogs. So that background layout kind of gave me those vibes too, and that artist also really speaks to me. So tell me a little bit about maybe that series, and is there new stuff that's changed in your process there, or what kind of created that new look and texture to that image?
So, I mean, I love that you mentioned Dean DeJesus because I love her stuff, and she describes her style as mechanical romanticism, I think, which is really interesting.
Mm-hmm.
And it's funny because I didn't have her in mind at all when I started working on this. And in some of the finished pieces, I was like, oh, interesting. Like that, some of that ended up kind of. I do think there are some similarities in the vibes, and I wonder if that's because we're like working from common influences. I don't even know, but like, but I do really love her artwork, and but for me, so the process for this, like, I mean, you're totally picking up on exactly the right vibes because um, what I would have done before earlier on in my art process would just be tell Midjourney like maybe I want like the Pharaoh Akhenaten, but in the style of Klimt,
Right, right.
and just try to see what it gave me.
Uh,
I could try to specify colors, I could try to specify paint styles and things like that, but it doesn't always pick up on it. And, you're always sometimes you're fighting with it to try to get it to go where you want it to
yeah.
go. And it's always surprising you. But what I did differently this time around is I started in Procreate, which is a digital painting program. And
Hmm.
for people who don't know much about Procreate, one of the great things about it is that digital artists are constantly creating new brush packs that you can buy that come with
Oh,
different kinds of textures, color palettes, that will allow you to try to work in the styles that imitate all kinds of different kinds of traditional media. If you want things that look like printmaking, or you want things that look like, you know, um, a traditional oil painting or things like that. And so I
right.
started with a pack that is actually Klimt inspired. So it's a pack created
Okay.
by another digital artist that I purchased, and that gave me color palettes to choose from, but also a lot of different like of the kinds of textures that he works with, the kinds of patterns that he works with. And I started
Hmm.
out by painting a few different images of women in using that Klimt pack. Then I took that over to Midjourney, and then I put in that as the image prompt, and then asked for what I started out for was asking for I was actually started out by asking for women in the style of Klimt because that's where my painting had originally started.
Right.
But then as that developed, then I started using those images as image prompts to go into this ancient Egypt series.
Yes.
So so that means that everything about this style, like so what you'll notice when you really look at it is like, yes, it's Klimt, but there's something essentially digital art about it, you know?
Hmm.
It's like it isn't for the most part imitating brush strokes.
Right.
There's much more of a digital art vibe to it.
Yeah.
And the other thing that about that process that was important to me was I wanted to start with images of women and then ask for it to be combined with Akhenaten, the pharaoh, because one of the things that he was known for was he was a renegade. He just kind of like you might know him as, you know, the king whose queen was Nefertiti. That was
Oh,
his
gotcha.
queen.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
Akhenaten and Nefertiti go together. But during
Yeah.
his period, he just like completely rejected absolutely everything about like ancient Egyptian religion and culture and everything that was happening. He decided to be a monotheist and only worship the sun and no other gods.
Hmm.
He moved to the capital. And another thing was that Egyptian art had been traditionally like really extremely regulated and stayed
Hmm.
extremely consistent for hundreds and even thousands of years. There was
Right.
very little variation in style. He just threw that all out the window and he said, I don't care how the Pharaoh is usually supposed to be portrayed. I'm going a completely different direction. He made himself deliberately ugly in some
Mm.
ways. He did. And the other thing was that he always had himself portrayed in a much more androgynous way and in ways that didn't
Right.
fit with the gender conventions at the time. And to
That's
some degree,
awesome.
Nefertiti as well. Like Nefertiti would get
Right.
placed in roles that were traditionally and in regalia and things like that that were traditionally the pharaoh's or the man's.
Right.
And so I just kind of wanted to make some gender queer Akhenatons and
Yeah.
but with the Klimt vibes and
Yeah.
yeah, so that's what
It's
you're
so cool.
getting.
It's so cool. Yeah, that there all four of so far, all four of the series thus far, I've really been drawn to, but it was that first one that was that perfect blend of those tones and colors, but
Mm,
there is a texture to that piece that almost gives me kind of like gold foil kind of
yeah.
vibes, just the way that there's just a little bit of folds and creases in some of the golds there that I think are really going to look awesome if rendered appropriately. So I'm
Yeah.
super excited. We'll be talking about. I need to get that one. So
I mean, and I can show you somewhere for the people out there who are looking for some queens. I've got some Nefertitis as well that will be partnering into this series. So,
that's
which I
awesome.
imagine might be more popular, but I was more drawn to the, you know, genderqueer radical pharaoh.
Yeah,
That's
that's so
you know.
cool. Yeah. Well, I also wanted to chat a little bit about one last piece, and it's
Hmm.
actually the one that's right behind me here. And so that's
Yeah.
Being in Nothingness. And that was one of the images that really jumped out to me when I first, came across your Instagram and was scrolling through that, and one other one really, really spoke to me. So the other one is a mystery kit, so I'm not going to
Hmm.
dive into it too much. But I thought that they made a really good pair, and in my head, I had kind of told I could develop this whole lore of what we're looking at here. And for me,
Yeah.
this was, obviously the physical image, and I'll put it up again in a little screen because it's
Yeah.
hard to
Yeah.
see.
Yeah.
This hasn't been worked on. This is just
Yeah. Yeah.
the
Yeah.
printed canvas. But you've got a figure kind of in the foreground, and they're looking out over what looks to be kind of a futuristic other planetary, some sort of city or civilization. There's lots of like tall buildings, and it looks like there's some sort of flying objects, be them vehicles or what have you, in the air. And then
Hmm.
there's like kind of some wires or lines connecting some of the larger skyscrapers. And so it's just kind of this city scene. And then underneath, there's kind of what looks to be like some sort of platform or half wall that's all done in like neon pinks and stuff. So to me, it was like someone getting off of some sort of transit or something like that. This is
Hmm.
them looking out from whatever that station is, looking out over the city. Um, but it also invoked a lot of feelings of feeling, senses of solitude in an otherwise really packed environment,
Hmm.
a really big urbanized city and being amongst all of that, but still feeling kind of alone, vulnerable, and that's such a juxtaposition to the life and the vibrancy of whatever area you're in. So that's kind of what I took away from that. I won't talk too much about the other image again, but there's also like a generational
Hmm.
thing that I had in my head too, of like someone stepping forward and looking at the city that they lived in and grew up with their whole lives, and how they may have changed so much, but those same feelings of longing
Yeah.
and loneliness are still there when they see that. So it hit me in a weird way, like I wasn't going through looking for like futuristic city scenes or anything like that. I was not
Hmm.
seeking any of that out, but it just you hit on an image and you're just like, this is doing something, And so that's when I reached out to you and I was like, we need to talk.
Yeah.
So maybe so now that you've heard my whole spiel about it, tell me a little bit about how that image came to be, what it means to you.
I really love what you've picked up from that, because okay, so I'll start by saying that one of the reasons why I chose Midjourney as the program that I want to use, as opposed to some of the others out there, is that the creators really wanted to have it have a certain artistic feel. Like they're not necessarily going for realism. You can try to
Mhm.
take it in a more realism direction, but like whereas like one of the other programs was originally created to make a fake stock image of people so that corporations wouldn't have to like photograph real people for their stock
Oh,
images.
interesting. Yeah.
Like it's like so that obviously is geared towards like realism. You want to just make people that look like people in an office, whatever.
Hmm.
Midjourney was meant to be much more of a creative tool, and one of the things that they really wanted was for it to respond really well to emotions and concept words, and not just visual description.
Right.
So that's really where this came from. It was during, so I had for a while where I was just playing with the titles of various major texts in the history of philosophy,
Hmm.
and just seeing what the AI would do with them. So, I mean, I
Right.
have some that it's like the critique of pure reason. I'm like, what is an AI? What image is going to come out of like the critique of pure reason? I was just like super curious.
Right.
But this one hits more to like my philosophical home, which is existentialism.
Right.
So this came out of the title, Being and Nothingness is a book by Jean-Paul Sartre, who is an existentialist. And a lot of what that book is about is exactly the thing that you're describing, the sense of being, um, having that particular kind of like isolated feeling, even in the midst of a city, even in the midst of this bustle around you, having that there's a sense of us all being in our own existence where we are, we can connect with other people, but there's something about a loneliness inside our own existence that never quite totally connects with everything. I mean, that's
Right.
definitely a theme of the book. And so I used that book title and then tried to figure out what kind of like visual styles I might want to build on top of that title and see where that could come from. And so that's how I ended up with like the cyberpunk kind of sci-fi theme, was thinking like, how do I take that title and put it in, a particular like imaginary context that would bring out those kinds of themes. So
Yeah.
it's pretty cool that like that's what you got from it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so that is amazing. I totally, it's so cool that what I thought drew connections with where you
Yeah.
developed that image. I think one of the things that has been brought up specific, or regarding AI, is because there is that computer assistance or that generation there, that there
Mhm.
is it's a little bit hard to pull the depth and emotion from an image if it's been processed in that manner. But I think what we just
Yeah.
kind of proved is that what you, as far as your particular process and how you utilize this, a lot of that depth and thought and background and emotion is baked into your artwork as anything else. And I think the fact that we were able to build those bridges and connections, I knew nothing
Yeah.
about that book or existentialism as a part of this piece, and yet I'm describing what the book
Yeah.
is describing. So it's just, I'm like, that's so cool.
Yeah, I think like so AI art, like it has its benefits and it has its drawbacks. And like I think that one of the things that is both a benefit and a drawback is the fact that it's so fast.
Right.
Because in the process it is so easy because you're just like sitting there like saying like, okay, make more variations of that, make more variations of that, make more variations of that. That's actually why um I called my art page iterations crafts, because the idea of iterations is a bunch of different versions of something. And so it's
Right.
like the idea of creating art through more and more versions of something until you get to what you want. And
Yeah.
I find myself like it's really easy in that process to stop looking, like to
Yeah.
not really look at what you're making.
Hmm.
And so I'm constantly like trying to get myself to slow down. And
Right.
there's, I think also in the trends in AI art as like an overall thing, like there's a so much excitement about what it can do as a technology that there can be a lot of focus on images that look cool. Like that is,
Hmm.
and just like, oh, isn't it cool that, or this looks cool or something. And
Yeah.
I'm constantly trying to bring myself back to that place of emotion. Like does it bring out emotions in me and hopefully in the viewer? Does it have a story to tell? Like I'm just constantly trying to bring myself back to that. And I feel like
Right.
I understand why people think that AI art doesn't do that, because um in some ways it pushes against that in some ways, because you know you can get very excited about just trying to see what the technology can do, and you can forget about focusing on
Right.
the
Right.
emotional or storytelling component, but
Yeah,
you absolutely
absolutely.
can bring that in, and I
Yeah.
think again it's that thing where it's like if an image means something to you, then it means something to you, like,
Right.
and
Yeah.
that's it at the end of the day. Like it doesn't,
Yeah.
whatever process it came to, it means something to you.
Yeah. Exactly. Exactly. Awesome. Well, I guess the last thing that I had for you is, sorry, I have my questions on my phone and it keeps locking.
It's
um,
okay.
so, oh my goodness. Okay, there we go. Sorry about that. So as far as your artwork, you have, I feel
Hmm.
like when I first saw your Instagram account, you were talking mainly with doing the kind of customs or doing the one for one licensing or those individual
Mhm.
licensing so people can utilize
Yeah.
your product on their customs or elsewhere. But I've been so excited to see that your artwork is showing up in a lot more really cool places. So I wanted to
Yeah.
hear, tell us where, aside from being able to reach out to you directly, where can we find
Mhm.
some of your images in diamond painting form?
So there are a few different places now, and there are more coming. So I mean, which is really exciting to me because it has been fun to have places reach out to me and say like, I need that. So the place that has the company that has the most of my images right now that are currently available is the one with the diamond art. Um,
Okay.
and so they're a UK based company, but they ship to the US. It's they ship everything from China, so it's that kind of deal.
Yeah.
So you should be able to get things from them worldwide, I think.
Okay.
Um, and they have the largest collection of my stuff right now because they're the first people who launched me. They tend to focus a lot on my dark fantasy kinds of images, but there's some other things in
Hmm.
there too. Royal Diamond Painting, which is an American-based company in Texas, also
Hmm.
has they've licensed a lot of my images, but so far they've only released 4. And they are currently in a sort of slow down period because of issues with the owner's health and everything. So,
Okay, okay,
but in the future, I would say like in the future, if you wait a month or two, like you're going to be able to start to get a lot more from them.
okay,
Um,
awesome.
and then Uniquely Yours Down Under just launched this past week, and they'll have more of my things coming.
Okay.
And then there are other companies, other small shops that have already licensed with me but haven't released things yet. I'm not really sure
Mhm.
if I can name them or not, but
Okay, yeah, don't worry about it. It's
that's
fine.
the list for right now. Yeah.
Okay, okay, cool.
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, I knew that there was some of your images on the one with the diamond art. And so what's awesome is that that gives at least me, and I'm sure a lot of other people, a reason to go explore maybe some new shops that they haven't tried before. Because
Yeah.
I, I I really do think that your artwork is very special and unique in this space, and it speaks to so many people. I love, scrolling through some of your images and seeing the comments of like, this is so cool. I've never seen anything like this. And I feel the same way. Like
Yeah.
every time I see a new image come up, I'm like, this is kind of the direction that I hope to see diamond painting go. And I've only been doing it for about a year now, but to really see some interesting and unique images that just kind of surprise you and really engage, like that storytelling side of things is just so much fun. So, yeah, I guess, is there any other things that you wanted to touch on? Do you feel like, anything else that you wanted to share with people before I let you go?
No, I mean, I think we pretty
Okay.
much covered it, and that's,
Good.
that's a lot of what I had to say. And I think
Good.
the other
Yeah.
thing is just to invite people to reach out to me on my Instagram and DM me. And, if you, um, yeah, in terms of like getting individual images directly from me, I have a pay what you want, pay what you can policy. So,
Okay.
um, the minimum, like I have a suggested minimum of $5, but I've also sold for less and I've sold for a lot more. I really just
Hmm.
want it to be available to people at whatever income level you're at. So, but then the
Right.
other thing is like reach out to me with questions if you want. If you are curious about AI art, because I know there aren't very many sources right now for people in the diamond painting community to go to learn about this like new and super complex like thing that's happening,
Hmm.
so you can definitely reach
Yeah.
out to me with questions about that. And yeah, so
Yeah.
find me on Instagram.
Awesome.
Also, if you want to get started, that's the other thing is like I just, if you want to try it out yourself, if you want to make something yourself in AI and then order it as a custom diamond painting for yourself, like I can also give you some tips about where to get started. I've learned most everything I know from YouTube. So,
Yeah.
you can,
Awesome.
I'm happy to help people
Yeah.
get started.
That's awesome. Yeah, and and this is kind of how I approached this series with you, and with Rose, who's the other artist that I did an interview with or a spotlight on. My goal here was really, a little bit selfish in the sense that I had a lot of questions and I needed a lot of clarification. Not a lot of, but I'm always the person that's like, let me read into this and let me go to the source. If I
Mhm.
want to learn a little bit more rather than taking what is being said or just kind of that conversation. I'd rather bring in someone that has that direct impact, or they're actively involved in that, and hear about them, and not specific to one thing or another, but I just also wanted this channel to be inclusive of artists and bring a lot of people to the forefront and just try to educate not only myself but anyone that might be watching on how does all of this happen to where we have this image sitting in front of us that we're working on?
Yeah.
And I thought the best place was to go to the source, the people that are creating this artwork that we all really love. So thank you so much for being willing to kind of sit down and share your process, and being very candid and open and willing to share as much as you can with others. I think that is the environment that's going to foster a lot of better understanding around all different types of artwork. So yeah, thank you.
Yeah, well, thank you for having me. It's really fun to be able to just talk about what I'm doing and get it out there. And I guess like, yeah, my main takeaway is like I'm relatively new at this and I'm making stuff that I love. So, you know, dive in. Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
I just want it to be I just want people to be able to unlock their creativity in whatever ways they want to.
Yeah, absolutely. And I definitely think that you've kind of, shared how people might be able to jump into that. So I'm excited to see where things go next in your artistic career and working with diamond painting companies, or continuing to do those, individual kind of licensing with consumers or customers. And I will definitely be keeping an eye out. I check my Instagram constantly, and I'm gonna get my hand on that first Pharaoh kit. I already reached out to the company that I want to make the custom. So
Ooh, I'm so excited because I want to see that as a diamond painting like so badly. But I haven't made
yeah,
too many diamond paintings of my own art. It's
yeah,
so small.
yeah, yeah. I have to pace myself too, but that color palette is just. I was like, I don't have a choice really, so I'm super excited.
Forcing you into it.
Yeah. Well, thank you again so much for taking the time to chat with me. And I'm sure that we'll be connecting soon, and maybe we'll be able to do another video again.
Yeah, I would love that. Anytime.
Awesome. Cool. Thanks for taking the time. We'll see ya. Alrighty, so I hope everyone enjoyed that interview, or that spotlight with Hannah over at Iterations Crafts. Thank you so much again, Hannah, for being willing to participate um, in this series. Like I said, this kind of wraps up the first trio, or first three of these spotlights that I've already completed. I have some more in the books, but there'll be a little bit of a reprieve while we get things scheduled and I get questions sent out, that type of thing. So I'm not sure how frequently these will happen, but I love doing them. So it's probably going to be a lot more. Um, it's just so much fun. Let me pretend like where's my diamond painting pen? I literally set this up just to do these intros and outros. I've done it every time, like, ooh, we're working on a kit. I haven't placed a single drill. I should hold my, I should be like, I don't even have the tablet out to see what's supposed to be placed. So this is full on staging. So yeah, thank you so much, Hannah. I really appreciate it. It's so awesome to hear from an artist directly, their progression through utilizing various tools, and how they're able to evolve and grow and create pieces that really resonate with a lot of people. I think, in and out of the diamond painting community, but especially, myself, there was a lot of images early on that Hannah put up that really spoke to me. And now it's so cool to see that evolution as she starts to incorporate additional tools, additional methods. So if anything, for me, it's like I said, it's so interesting to see the development and kind of the evolution of an artist. So yeah, one of the things that Hannah had mentioned in her while discussing why that program Midjourney has really worked for her, one of the benefits is that accessibility piece. She and I were discussing a little bit about how it gives, people that might not have felt that they had that creative knack, the opportunity to explore and have some fun and kind of play with the software and spark some inspiration. That's what led Hannah to start not only utilizing that tool, but expanding into creating her own artwork from scratch at the beginning and then doing some more touch-ups, and now really having a more robust set of tools and skills that she's developed by sparking that interest and feeling like, yes, I can do this. Like, that's such a huge thing. So having said that, I think for me, another reason that those programs like Midjourney and some of those AI programs are very helpful is giving people in communities that might not otherwise have the means or access to higher level education beyond high school, whether it be not being able to take more formal classes. I think it gives people in some of those communities where you might not see as many creatives in the artwork space and otherwise come out of those as successfully, because whether it be demographic or income, puts them in a position that's a lot harder than others may have experienced in their journey to becoming artists. So I think that's where, once again, where AI and similar tools can provide a lot of benefit, and we might actually see more amazing artistic and creative people coming out of communities that might not see that as often had they not had those types of tools. So I'm no expert, but it's something that I have been trying to research as much as possible of the benefits in underrepresented communities. So try not to get emotional. Anyway, so all that being said, Hannah, I want to thank you so much for taking the time to do this interview with me and really not only open my eyes, but hopefully add a little bit of perspective to the conversation in general. So I wanted to thank you, Hannah. All that being said, just wanted to thank you for taking the time to chat with me today. And how I'd like to thank you is by doing a little bit of a donation. So there is an organization called Chai Cat or Kai Cat. I think it's supposed to be like Chicago and then cat. I don't know. I forget what the CAT stands for, but Hannah lives in the Chicago area. And this organization is solely focused on providing underprivileged or underinvested communities the opportunity to integrate art and technology into their youth learning programs. So they focus specifically on bringing the tools of the 21st century, including tools like AI artwork, to these communities that might not otherwise have access, be it internet access, reliable computer access, access to software, access to art supplies, tools, materials, the things that they really need to help foster creative expression. They provide those tools and those spaces for certain communities within, I believe it's the south and west sides of Chicago. They had a really good mission statement on their website. You could see a lot of the different classrooms and spaces that they have set aside to allow youth and students to come in and utilize these programs, software, physical tools, oil paints, whatever that might be. I saw some computer programming stuff and some courses there that students can enroll into. And so I'd like to donate $50 in Iterations Crafts name. According to their website, $50 is enough to provide supplies for art kits for middle school and high school students who participate in either in-person arts classes, digital art classes, and as well as some of the licensing. So think of like paying for software licensing, that type of thing. So it helps to, ideally, this organization helps to kind of give the same opportunity that Hannah's experience was with kind of integrating the software and then starting to expand from there to middle schoolers, high schoolers in communities that might not otherwise have an iPad sitting around or have a tablet or have Midjourney, a license for that. So it gives them at least that little jump start to play, explore, get excited about their creativity and pursue that further. So that's it. That's a long outro, and our interview is a little bit longer too, so this is going to be a long premiere, but thank you so much for sticking around. Thank you again, Hannah. Thanks everyone for watching, both in the live chat and if you're doing the hashtag replay. That's it. That's all I have for you. Don't forget to like, subscribe, share this content with friends, family members, anyone that you think might take some value out of this content. Otherwise, happy placing, and we'll see you next time. Bye, everyone. Bye. 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 Bye.